Regardless of the state of being you're experiencing, it could be joy or grief, despair or devotion, it could even be abundance or scarcity. There is a certain ultimate sacred technology that will meet you exactly where you are and hold you in an alchemical process that brings you into an expanded state of consciousness. And weave with coherence your past, present, and future. But in order to access it, you need to become conscious of how you actually interface with reality. Because this technology is gratitude. One of the most overlooked and most commonly dismissed tools that is already in your lap. But it's challenging to actually connect it with your life circumstances, because often what we think we should be grateful for is what we take for granted. But what about everything else? What if your lack of gratitude is stabilizing you in a reality that you actually don't want to be experiencing? The reason why gratitude is such an enigmatic ingredient in the conscious experience is because when we enter this world, we naturally don't know how to express and feel it. I mean, think about it. When you are a baby and growing up as a child, you take for granted that your needs are met. You articulate them by crying, by asking for certain things, and of course, on an instinctual level, we expect that our basic, most primordial needs, including food, water, shelter, and nurturance, is going to be offered to us. And with time, a being who has that healthy nurturing in place is going to be able to appreciate even more nurturing from other people. And they're going to have a healthy desire to extend their love into the world and provide the emanation of gratitude because they once experienced a healthy, loving field. But what if that isn't the case? What if trauma creates a space of disconnection, creating the inner environment of separation, which causes somebody to not even know what they're grateful for because they were missing the essentials? You might think that in these cases, gratitude is something that being is not ever going to come to experience because there are too many things in their past, due to a trauma-ridden childhood, for instance, and due to any kind of pain that was not fair in their mind to experience, that there is going to be a hold of victim consciousness on them. But what if that is exactly the trap? When there's a state of victimhood that sets in, gratitude has already been exiled from the field of consciousness. Because when victimhood is solidified instead of a space of sovereignty, you're connected to only the dark side of the painful experience. A child, of course, doesn't know this. But as a conscious adult, reflecting on the experience of your inner child, the emanation of your deepest pain and longing and desires, you will be able to see a part of you that either knows how to experience gratitude or doesn't. But the quest for that deeper understanding doesn't end there. That's only the beginning. When you recognize that there are some parts of you which experienced unfortunate circumstances, didn't know how to feel and process certain emotions, and simply weren't held in the permission to experience exactly what you know you deserve at the deepest level, that is where there's an opportunity to alchemize pain and suffering and confusion into what will bring the deepest gratitude for not just your life experiences, but for your experience as a human being. So when a child's needs are not met, what forms is this energy of blame, projection, entitlement, and emotional wounding that crystallizes into a state of victimhood. And that child, if they don't learn how to meet their own needs and forgive and release the remnants of their past that is creating this fixation within their own pain body, then they are going to become a wounded adult who's perceiving everything that's missing in their lives and focusing on that absence. This is the killer of gratitude. As soon as you replace your connection to your own sovereignty and to the feeling of what you're capable of holding, appreciating, transmuting, learning, and healing within yourself, you naturally are going to find evidence for everything that is keeping you away from that desired experience of self. Instead of seeing these as individuals and circumstances that likewise experienced a painful reality that they were not grateful for, and that didn't know how to provide an experience that can create gratitude. You now might be seeing them as the reasons why you are in this destined position of suffering. Removal from that fixed lens is the first step, because once you can start to create space between yourself and your past, you can appreciate the ability to apply a higher level definition. What gratitude provides is a retuning of any circumstance to allow there to be a frequency reset that's actually allowing you to transmute anything into a higher frequency nature. What I mean by that is anything that creates compression within your body, any tension, woundedness, pain, that once made you coil away from your true self, that created deep fragmentation, a longing for someone or something to address those inner needs instead of you really seeing what wants to blossom within you if only you learn to hold space for that. By creating that space between what caused the compression and what you realize your soul really wants you to experience in the now moment, you can recognize the only way for you to have that realization was through that distinction that you viscerally came to recognize. You were able to learn the essence of human psychology, complex relational dynamics, lessons like forgiveness, understanding, empathy, and ultimately what it means to transmute generational trauma and alchemize suffering from the inside out by experiencing everything that you currently cast judgment on or that you believe is an excuse and evidence for why you can't experience a lighter, freer state of being. And the actual only thing that allows you to shift from that mode of victimhood to an elevated space of awareness is gratitude. When you go from feeling attachment to the old conditioned lens of being to a higher vantage point, you're going to sense that the part of you that was trapped, stagnant, confused, it simply didn't know how to free itself from that mode of experienced pain. It never learned to seek outside of that pain bubble. And instead, that pain is crystallized when you refuse to budge. There's a very stubborn energy there, which is what leads to all of the coping mechanisms, the addictions, the patterns of sustaining pain, by just trying not to look in the direction of what it's actually revealing. But when you step away from that mode of being secured by your own pain body, and instead really understand what is the deeper message encoded within it, a whole story begins to unravel. You can really see, in high definition, what caused it and what also proportional to that pain is unlocking in you the ability to be your best self. And when you start to experience gratitude blossoming as an inner experience of holding all of these paradoxical elements, pain and love, resentment and the need for forgiveness, a kind of conditionality that once brought you in the space of disconnection and separation, and now the unconditional love, which is the acceptance of the gift located in the supposed curse, you start to reconcile everything within you that couldn't experience gratitude. And when that happens, you are profoundly anchored in the present moment in a way that causes you to experience the full truth of your being. When gratitude is actually experienced as a state of consciousness, you can't run from anything, and you start to see reality in a crystal clear way. You understand that everything else that comes up in that moment, any other blind spots, any other shadows, triggers, whatever it is that continues to emanate after you've already locked yourself into a space of gratitude, you know that you are powerful enough and courageous enough to hold all of it and to witness reality now as one that's going to be alchemizing everything else that arises, because you know that all of it is food for soul evolution. And that is something to be profoundly grateful for. And so my question to you right now is to think of the absolute worst or most difficult thing that has ever happened to you, and to analyze how in this moment you perceive that scenario, to feel in your body what comes up. And I want you to now see from an expanded vantage point how your perception of that scenario is keeping you in a space of spiritual limbo. Instead of connecting the personal experience to a cosmic perception, allowing you to really see why this situation is something that unfolded in your field, what it is revealing to you, what it's allowing you to access within yourself as deeper power, strength, and resilience. And also, what are the subtle qualities of awakening that have already been created in you as a result of you experiencing that thing? All of that becomes immediately apparent if you challenge yourself to embody the mode of gratitude. Because the first effect of gratitude is that it brings you a softening into the present moment and an ability to perceive things through the eyes of love. Even if it was something that you never have been able to come to terms with, you now trying to find something to be grateful for, something activating, profound, and remarkably healing about what it is that you were initiated into, allows you to perceive exactly that. That's the blind spot. And often, your disconnect from seeing something with gratitude is what creates this sense of being possessed by your own shadow. Because let me remind you, if you're possessed by your shadow, that angry, vindictive, disconnected part of you that once experienced pain has been polarized from. And instead of finding a way to transmute that disconnect, you keep it as something even more farther away from your psyche. You don't want to approach anything that caused the immediate disturbance. And so because of that, you enter this state of complete polarization, where you're at war with not only parts of you, but parts of reality that are there to teach you and to bring you closer to your soul's awareness. For this to work, as you likely are already sensing, wisdom is required. But wisdom without gratitude even becomes arrogance, because everything that you attain is connected to something beyond you, something initiated by other beings, systems, worldly conditions. Even the most difficult circumstances on planet Earth are elements that bring you into a space of reckoning and deeper consideration of not only why you're here, but why all of us collectively are processing certain themes and going through the earthly experience like a portal that lets us birth awareness, integrate trauma, let go of karmic circumstances, and ultimately create entire new realities, meanwhile having a shared, very complex experience. But let's just say that this isn't something you embody. And I'm sure you know many people in your own life that don't wear gratitude like a necessary part of their experience. They're disconnected. They're wounded. You can tell they're in pain because they're doing more running away from themselves than merging with their heart and really taking time to contemplate the meaning of all of this beyond what their mind is projecting. In those cases, trauma still encoded in the nervous system of an individual makes them scan the world for threats and opposition. And ultimately, they are part of that opposition that they're still embodying within themselves. Because simply what isn't healed, reflected on, processed, grieved, and fully allowed through the system, through an ultimate purging event, will accumulate into this kind of density that causes you to reflect on where reality is a source of betrayal and suffering and imprisonment, without the individual really realizing they are causing it. What they are perceiving most intensely in the world is something they are still trying to eradicate within themselves, but not actually doing that. Anyone who cannot surrender to grace and allow themselves to drift into this space of open consideration, alchemical work, and transmuting their shadow into a source of liberation and wisdom is going to seek to control the outcomes in their daily experience. Because the gripping on to the false self's needs and attachments and masks is the only way to keep this artificial game going. The only way to operate in reality, if gratitude is not experienced on multiple levels of the being, is going to be through a false connection to what the individual needs to protect themselves. And as that builds up in somebody, there's going to be more and more evidence of everywhere that falsity is present. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. The individual will accrue more and more issues and see that reality is actually confirming to them everywhere that they are being insincere, everywhere they are ungrateful, entitled, think that they need to be experiencing more of something because they just can't feel there is enough of that emotional, soulful energy accessible within themselves. But the thing is, whenever someone doesn't feel like they are enough, or their inherent worthiness is something that they need to put to the test by constantly seeking more approval, validation, connection, achievement, like on a never-ending hamster wheel of experience, then they're going to eventually get to a moment when that not enoughness comes to a halt. The hamster wheel will break one day because the individual is unable to sustain even the constant search for something that takes them away from the point of existence. And at that point, a crash happens. When the crash happens, there is no more gratitude left in the individual system. They've run so far away from the core of their being, which is the only part that can really experience gratitude, for the truth of reality, for what is in its sincere expression, that they stop feeling. Their heart closes. And instead of seeking more illusions and more experiences that have once provided a sense of comfort, they eventually are not able to sustain even that. And when that happens, my friends, someone is dealing with the dark night of the soul. When the dark night of the soul manifests, someone needs to be profoundly humbled, to surrender again to the mystery that is reality, to understand how they are always, even when they don't realize it, even when they are trying to escape their lives or themselves, they are held in a cosmic womb, because that is the essence of our existence. We're always held in this quantum field of energies, which is mirroring back to us what we need most. And if we don't respect that, and understand that the karmic laws underlying existence are always active, then eventually we have to pay the price. Not because we are being punished for everything that we don't see by some external force, but because what we are ungrateful for accumulates as splits within our being that become so heavy and painful to hold that one day the false architecture has to collapse. This is a self-sustaining mechanism of the universe. And just like gratitude is a particular technology allowing us to interface with reality in a conscious way, everything else that steers us away from coherence, harmony, and true inner attunement to truth is what destabilizes us. Functioning like a kind of transhumanist technology leading to the abysmal reckoning. That is the dark night of the soul. Sometimes the accumulation of pain and trauma accrues to the point where someone feels that surrendering to themselves and seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, moving through all the splits, by really sensing what they had to be grateful for was not in seeking anything else outside of them, but in merely being present in their body and understanding what life is affording them the opportunity to feel. If that is an experience, then it's going to be dreadfully painful to surrender to that truth. Whenever the dark night of the soul moment happens, someone is brought back into the state in which they recognize they are not really controlling reality, even though they might have thought that is the way that their life works. And they're profoundly humbled by the feeling that the only way to come out of this abysmal state is to fully feel the emotions that are arrived at. That truth that they've been avoiding, everything they've been fearing, it's right there. And the only way to see the light at the end of the tunnel is to become it. It's to move into a space of electromagnetic resonance with the very experience nested within the being, moving through the entire tangled hierarchy of the self and holding space for all of it. Because that holding is the hierarchy of gratitude. Within that is acceptance. There's an embrace of possibility. There's an acknowledgement that you may think you are greater than and above life and God and the process of manifestation because your mind is so in control of this experience in the self-assured state. But the reality is that no healing happens in that kind of dislodged position. The only way to heal and truly awaken is to just be held by the mystery of reality and to know that everything that you are feeling is the true essence that's coming up to the surface for you to learn gratitude for yourself, for the world around you, and for the entirety of this experience. When that happens, gratitude becomes the essence, like the enzyme that digests karma. It allows you to, again, come back into a space of creative collaboration with the universe. It opens you up to be a receptive vehicle where everything you are receiving as input is something you don't take for granted, but you see as a sign of your openness, which is greatly rewarded when you allow there to be an exchange of gratitude. Because remember, everything in life is part of an energy exchange. So the more that you receive, the more gratitude must be generated by just feeling deeply what it is that is moving through you. And the essence of this, at the most simplistic level, is to be grateful for every moment you have to come more deeply home to yourself. When you catch yourself feeling confused, lost, like you need so much more that you don't currently have access to, simply be grateful for what you have, for your body, for your shelter, for your ability to be connected, and for the environment around you that is letting you literally connect with everything more deeply when you choose to be intimate with it. So wherever it is that you feel you are, and whatever it is that you feel you need, I want you to remember that gratitude will take you there. It will bring you into deeper alignment and resonance. It will open you up even more. It will show you everything that you have been hiding from and remove the pressure from the need to disconnect from those things that you feel do not bring you gratitude typically, and instead bring you into the expansion by allowing you to resolve any of those discontinuities. And when that happens, you will feel that you're literally rewiring reality from the inside and out, as there's always this sacred technology within your heart that allows you to retune your connection to your spirit. And within that magical dance of elements, more truth, light, and love is always orchestrated.